Hi, and in today's video, we are gonna go over cellular respiration and the step-by-step processes. I think I'm gonna keep it nice and chill today because it's a chill day today. It's pretty sunny outside, so it's like a chill day. So the question I want to answer is, how do cells convert the energy stored in glucose into ATP that can power life? And as you can see here, we want to convert glucose to ATP, and that all happens in the mitochondria. And something that you might get confused on is that plants actually do cellular respiration. They don't only just do photosynthesis. So at the end of this lesson, I want you to be able to explain the overall process and the purpose of cellular respiration, and also describe the four major stages of cellular respiration and identify where each stage occurs. Okay, there's a lot to go over, so let's keep going. Also, let me know if this chill voice is nice or not, and I'll change it up for the next video. Hold on. I know I'm professional, but let me just respond to this text really quick. Ooh. Mm-hmm. Oh. Ah. Money. Okay. Okay, let's go back. Okay. So, why do cells need ATP? Well, every activity in a living cell or any animal requires energy. Like in the body, there needs to do active transport across membranes, and that requires energy since it's going against the concentration gradient. Also, muscle contractions, protein synthesis, cell division, and nerve signaling. Like these all require energy. And they can't get the energy out of glucose directly, but they need to convert it to ATP. And that gets us to what ATP actually stands for, and it's adenosine triphosphate. And this is the main way, and the main energy currency, because ATP, it's able to be created, and it's also able to get energy quickly when the phosphate bonds is broken. As you can see here, we have a diagram of adenine and triphosphate. That's the ATP right here, and then there's a phosphate leaving, and the energy is released. And now it's adenosine diphosphate. I can go over chemical naming nomenclature. I'm sorry. Lower your volume. Jerry, I swear if you make me do nomenclature in chemistry. Okay, I'm back. I'm sorry about that, but Jerry. Jerry. Okay, so let's keep going. Okay, so the overall equation we have for cellular respiration is glucose. I hope you recognize this as glucose from our previous video of photosynthesis. And plants get the glucose through photosynthesis, but animals usually get the glucose through eating things, like us eating food, meats, anything. So we have the reactants are glucose and oxygen, and in return we get carbon dioxide, H2O, and ATP. And this is for aerobic cellular respiration. There's another thing called anaerobic cellular respiration, and that's when we don't have any oxygen. I can go more in depth about anaerobic. Actually, I'll just okay. There's there's two things called fermentation and another one. But fermentation happens in like yeast, and that produces uh I and that produces alcohol. I think ethanol, alcohol, and there's another one that produces lactic acid, and that's when like you exercise and you not get that like when you're running over a long distance, and that's when you feel tired. That's all because of lactic acid. But the body still needs ATP, and if it doesn't have oxygen, it still needs a way to convert the glucose into things able to produce ATP when oxygen is available. So that's when anaerobic happens. But let's review the 4 stages. Okay, first off, we have glycolysis. Second, we have pyruvic oxidation. Third, we have citric acid cycle and the electron transport chain and chemiosmosis. Okay, I know that sounds like a lot, but if we break it down, it's actually very simple. Glycolysis happens in the cytoplasm, and very simply saying, it just splits the glucose into 2 pyruvic molecules, and then all those products move into pyruvic oxidation, and that happens in the mitochondrial matrix, and this converts the pyruvate into acetyl-CoA, and then that goes into the citric acid cycle that's also in the mitochondrial matrix, and that produces carriers of the things going to be used in the 4th stage and small amounts of ATP. All of these produce small amounts of ATP, but it doesn't produce a lot, except for the 4th one, the electron transport chain. This is where the bulk of the ATP is made, and scientists like debated how much ATP is actually produced through one glucose, and I think it depends on your science book, but it ranges from 32 to around 38, and we see that this produces on average 32 2 right? So I'm pretty sure it produces 34 based on what my teacher told me, but it's subject to debate. Okay, and let's go to the first one, glycolysis. So like I said, it's the 1st stage, and it occurs in the cytoplasm, and like I said, it does not require oxygen directly as this aerobic and anaerobic. And in this process, we split one glucose into 2 pyruvic, as you can see, and everything costs energy, so it takes in 2 ATP to break those down. But it also gives us 4 ATP, so we net 2 ATP, but it also produces 2 NADH, which is the pyruvic. Okay, next those move on to pyruvic oxidation, and that enters the mitochondrial matrix, and in the process we have one carbon is removed as CO2, and the NADH reduces to NADH, and when this happens, acetyl-CoA is formed, and this process also happens twice per glucose molecule, and it links glycolysis to the citric acid cycle, which is also called the Krebs cycle, I think. But yeah, so acetyl-CoA, and then this acetyl-CoA will go into the Krebs cycle, and the cycle will generate and extract more energy from the acetyl-CoA per glucose molecule. And this is like a very, very like dimmed down, very general. Like there's a lot more that goes on, but it goes in this order, right? So it will produce 2 ATP, 6 NADHs, 2 FADHs, 2s, and 4 CO2s. And the main payoff is that this will generate a lot of electron carriers that will power the electron transport chain and chemiosmosis. That will make sense when we get there. But these are like essential to making ATP. Okay, let's go on. So this is what we've been talking about, the electron transport chain. And this is actually the inner membrane of the cell. And electrons are carried by these two and move through these protein complexes. So there's a protein complex here, and protein here, right? So one of the carriers will go down here. Oh yeah, this is where the H2O, the water comes in. So the water will come in here, it gets split, and then the ion will go through here, and then a protein will transport it here, and it will transport it here, and then it will move out. Every time you see the arrows, the H plus is the hydrogen ions will move out, and that creates a protein gradient. See, these are pumped across the membrane, and this gradient is like the potential energy for the cell. And then when we go to chemiosmosis, that's when the bulk of our ATP is made. Here's chemiosmosis, and this is where ATP synthesis happens. So the hydrogen will actually move back into the cell, and it will bond with the, I think it bonds with the H2Os, I think, the HOs to produce water. But I think you need to fact check me on that. But that's not the main idea. But the main idea is that the H plus will flow back through the inner membrane. This is the inner membrane. Pretend this is the inner membrane. And the H plus will actually flow through it. And then the ADP plus PI will actually produce the ATP. So the ADP adenine diphosphate is right here, and the phosphate will bind here, and then it will produce ATP. And the ATP synthase actually rotates as the protein moves, right? And this will produce 26 to 28 per glucose. So that gets us to around 32 to 34 at the end. So that's like a very basic overview of what cellular respiration is. And to get more in depth and why oxygen is essential, like I said, oxygen is the final electron acceptor in the electron transport chain. And without it, the electrons cannot leave the chain, as the oxygen will accept the electron, and if without it, the cells rely on fermentation, like I said, and the carriers will not be able to unload its electrons, and ATP production will stop. And then we have a summary of what cellular respiration makes. So this is really good to memorize on what each stage will produce. So glycolysis will produce two ATP, and then it will also produce two NADHs. The pyruvic oxidation actually doesn't produce ATP. I think I misspoke, but it actually doesn't create ATP. But it also contribute two NADHs. And the Krebs cycle will actually also produce two ATPs. And it will also produce the electron carriers, the 6 NADHs and the 2 FADH2s. And the total yield is 30 to 32 ATP in joint. That's what most scientific books say. And just a rule of thumb, that aerobic respiration is 15 times more efficient than anaerobic respiration, because anaerobic will usually only produce 2 ATP, so not a lot. But as you can see, aerobic will produce 30 to 20, which is far more efficient due to each glucose. So we can move on to the AP biology connections that cellular respiration has with it. So AP biology regularly goes through the structure and function of the mitochondria. So if you memorize where each stage happens, that's really good. As you can see, this is basically what a mitochondria looks like. Membrane, transport, and protein gradients, that's really important for producing ATP. There's also redox reactions. I think redox reactions is more with chemistry, and I can go over that. If Jerry, I don't know why I keep saying I'm gonna go over chemistry, but I really don't like chemistry. Oh, hexagonic and endogonic? Oh, shoot. Yo, that's bringing me back to my chemistry days. But okay, surface area is called cristae, by the way, and aerobic and anaerobic, like I've been saying. Yeah, so you're gonna see this if you take AP biology or you take regular biology. Depends on what you take. Okay, so let's go on to some practice problems. Which stage produces the most ATP? I don't know why it's like that. I think this is the answers too. That's fine. So we can just go. So which stage produces the most ATP? It's gonna be the ETC. As this produces net 2, 0, oh, 2, oh, wait, 0, 2, 2, and then 30 to 32. So what is the final electron accepted in aerobic respiration? It's gonna be oxygen because we're producing ATP, so it cannot be the final electron acceptor. Glucose we're converting to ATP. And which molecules carries high energy electrons to the ETC? And that's from the Krebs cycle, which is the NADH. Okay, so some common AP mistakes that I think I made is that some people think glycolysis occurs in the mitochondria, but actually occurs in the cytoplasm. And oxygen is used in glycolysis, but oxygen is actually only required as the final electron accepted in the ETC. And if it's not available, it will undergo anaerobic respiration. And the Krebs cycle produces the most ATP, but actually it's during the oxidative phosphorylation, during chemiosmosis, and in the ETC. I know this is a long video, but just bear with me. Okay, so final reviews. So this is just a very general overview. That ATP powers nearly all cellular work. It has 4 major stages. The glycolysis starts in the cytoplasm, and the Krebs cycle occurs in the matrix, the mitochondrial matrix, and the ETC generates the most ATP via oxygen. And just one important AP biology tip is that when you the FLQs did mess me up. I hope you don't hear that background noise. But the AP biology, when you're answering the FLQs, make sure to connect structures whenever you can, or understand the energy transfer or molecular interactions, because ATP production occurs when there's a proton gradient. And if you don't know an answer, if you try put anything down, it might remind you of something you learned earlier, which could be a part of the answer. And uh I'm not sure if they give partial credit, but they might see the answer that you wrote down and might take it. So just writing whatever you can is always better than nothing. And I can do further AP exam reviews as it goes down to May, as we're very early. But I hope you enjoyed this video. I know this one was a long one, but if you have any criticism, I like constructive criticism. If you want me to be louder, more energetic, I was trying to talk like a storyteller. And can we tell Jerry not to give me a chemistry video next time? Okay, I'll see you later. Bye.